Thank you, and good morning. Heart pounding. Let's get started. Right, in 2002, I worked in Stockholm City Mission's second-hand shops as a sales assistant. Every day I saw things going through the shop, hanging there, not being sold, and then in the end we had to throw them because we couldn't store them. We have no possibility of storage. And I couldn't buy them all. Believe me, I tried. So in the end, we had to throw them. This frustration sort of brought me the idea, because I've always bought second-hand clothes myself, and because I'm 183 tall and sort of 60 kilos of weight, I always had to sort of rearrange them in some way or other. And because I've done this for myself and most of my friends as well for all my life, I thought, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this and make a brand of it? Why don't we sell this to people? Because this must be a problem. If I have this problem, this must be a problem for other people as well. Because you can't get different sizes in second-hand either. And very often there is something wrong with the second-hand clothing that you buy. It was anyway. It's become different. Which button do I press?
And I think I was too quick. So we have this line and maybe this one?
Yeah.
And then just here.
This is like an example of some of the things, what could be the problem. These old 50s dresses with sort of sweat stains under the sleeves, stains on the front, but they'd have like 5 to 10 meters of material in the skirt. And we had to throw them, and there was materials that aren't even made anymore. Materials from 20s, 30s, 40s. So that's sort of. And which one again? Oh, thank you. And this is also some of the problems, like minor faults with the things that we have in second hands. And the rest of it is fantastic. And we had to just throw them. That sort of frustrated me, of course. And I wanted to do a bit more than just mend. I wanted to create something new. I also didn't want to steal other people's clothing. I wanted to recreate them so that I wouldn't get into trouble for using other people's brands. Let's see, where am I? So, anyway, I came up with this idea and I brought it to my boss, who was very, very understanding. So without any business plan, any budget or anything, she gave me the go-ahead. She gave me the go-ahead to just do it. So for years, I just did it. It was amazing. It wasn't until like recently that we've started to organize everything, make business plans, and make a proper business out of it. Before that, we've just done it, which has been an amazing learning experience, because now we know a lot, and we can do a proper business plan, and we can have a future goals, which we didn't have before. We just did what we had to do on that day. So until three years ago, everything in Remake was reused, even the machines. But we realized as we were growing that we couldn't mend the machines. And the machines were probably not very environmentally friendly or easy to use, because we have a lot of work trainings with us. And if we have 10 to 15 different machines, you couldn't move around. You used your machine, and then you didn't know the other machines. So we ended up buying the same machines, just to make it a lot easier. So, thanks to an understanding and enthusiastic boss, and a great interest from customers, the label grew very quickly. And since the initial idea was all about materials and saving them, I was taken by surprise when Remake had only been running for a few weeks. And I had people knocking on my door wanting to do their work training at Remake. Sorry, I'll pick this up. Because I know how healing, being creative and working with my hands is for me, I thought, why hadn't I thought of that? I'm working at Stockholm City Mission because I'm interested in people and people, and moving people from one place to another. Why hadn't I thought of this being a place for that? Anyway, what makes Remake such an ideal place for work training? As a part of Stockholm City Mission, we have a great interest in human beings as an organization. We're no strangers to people in despair. We look for abilities, not disabilities. And at Remake, there's such variation of things to do that you can come in without any skills at all. And you can move ahead, you can move on. And after you've been at Remake, Remake is also a sort of closed environment. You don't have to front the public. After you've been with us for a while, you can move on to be in our shops or in different places and different workplaces that we have at City Mission. And after that, hopefully, you'll move on and fly away on your own and do your own thing. That's the plan. And when you work with your hands, you're still able to talk, which means you can open up, and a lot of people come to us with social phobias. You can open up and start talking in your own pace, at your own pace, which means you can open up your social skills. You can work on your social skills, and which means you get a lot tougher when you go out and sort of look for jobs or other things of interest. We also have pupils from design schools, occasionally. These girls were given the task of creating their own collection using denim. And in the end, they got to present it in our shops. So we can, because Remake is quite small, we're able to do this customized plans for people, both people from schools and people with problems or people without problems. We're able to sort of do whatever we want in that sense. Anyway, the years pushed on and I could feel the workload. There was no way we could work in production and take care of all the people in work training and do it well. This was me and Fredrik. Fredrik joined Remake, and suddenly we had Remake furniture because I was focused on textiles. That was my passion. I didn't really think of furniture. Remake came up with that idea. He was also working in Stockholm City Mission's shops before this. So Fredrik has a saying. He says he uses good furniture in a bad shape to give them new life. Some furniture are bad furniture. Some furniture are so bad initially, the same with textiles. Some textiles are so bad initially from the start that you can't really use them again. So fortunately, the industry is thinking of how to sort of get them back into the cycle with recycling in an industrial way, because some materials, even in second-hand, you can see clothes from up until the 80s, they can come back, and they can be second-handed 3 or 4 times. Whereas the things you buy now in the big brands, you can't even really take to the second-hand shops after you use them. So you'd rather send them to be burnt. So anyway, 3 years ago, we employed a person to be in charge of the work integration. She's in charge of all the contacts with Arbetsförmedlingen and the social services, and she sort of brings people to us and work with their plan, the individual plans of all these people that come into work training with us. And last year, Emily joined our crew. Sorry? She's part of what we called things. That's the gap between furniture and textile and clothing. Because if you come to our warehouse, there's so much things we have to throw away, so enormous amounts. And we don't have to do that, so Emily can fix that. So we have 3 legs now at Remake in design. That's what you wear. This is normally what my wardrobe looks like. And what you have in your storage, furniture, and things. All these things, the enormous amounts of things. And Remake by City Mission now exists in Gothenburg, Linköping, Västerås and Uppsala. Malmö is thinking of starting up, but they haven't really. They only opened up second-hand shops a few years ago, so they're only in the cradle, but they're really into it. So we're hoping that this will be all over Sweden. And we work together. We work independently from each other, but we use the same identity, the same label, and we try and communicate the same things. We have our way of communicating is, what we say is, we bring new life and new opportunities to people and materials. That's sort of our common statement. 2 years ago, we were asked by Teike Förlaget to write a book. I jumped at the idea, since I had that need for a while. I've had workshops in schools and found that much of the books existing were the same. I felt a need for a book without anything retro, vintage, or tufted wool. I like retro, vintage, and wool, but there's just so much of it. I don't see the biggest design challenge in these materials, since you can make anything out of a retro material and it'll sell. It doesn't really matter what you make. The challenge comes from making something new out of materials that there's a lot of, and that doesn't really have an interesting, it isn't interesting from the start, but you can make it interesting. That's the challenge, I find. We don't all agree, Henry, but that's my challenge. So in the book, I thought you should be able to use what you already got. I sometimes think, when I try to sort of give myself an imagination, when I try to work with what's Remake about, I imagine myself being a part of a Will Smith movie, where everything's fallen apart, industry doesn't work, I can't transport anything. I have to use what I have in this room, and I have to work with the people that's there with me. And that's quite an interesting thought, because I believe in the creativity of human beings. I believe that we want to make our environment beautiful, and I also believe that we can work with anyone as long as we find the comfort with this person and we find our places in this little group. I find that very interesting. And this, sorry, I have to, I tracked away. There's such a big consumption in the world, which means the shops every day, with news in the shops every day, and at prices that no matter what you call them, can't be very fair, for someone surely gets cheated along the way. But that's a different discussion. Anyway, with the book, and with all the things that we produce, we hope to inspire people to use what they have already got, and not necessarily go out and buy things, not even buy things to make new things, but to actually use what you already have, and with the skills that you have. If you want to do something, you will find a way. So with the book, and with all the things that we produce, we hope to inspire people. What do we ourselves throw out when we clear out at home? What do I throw out when I clear out at home? There's lots of t-shirts, there's odd porcelain things, there's presents that I really didn't want. And these, like this eagle, for example, it's got it's a little bit broken, and it's not very nice. I wouldn't really put it up on my shelf, perhaps, but someone gave it to me. And there's this bunch of t-shirts that lost shape because of bad quality most of the time. They lose shape, they become wide and short for some reason. I have no idea why. It's the cotton, I guess. So this is what you can do. You can just spray paint them. Spray paint all these fantastic porcelain figures. You can also glue them together and spray paint them, and you'll make fantastic creations that you can have. And if you paint them all in one color, they become a little bit more harmonious. They're nicer to look at, and you can actually see the shapes and not all the flimsy colors that they come with. And there's a bed throw you can make from t-shirts. This is another bed throw that I've got here on the table, made from old t-shirts. All these stools. Now this is a little bit particular, because it is a bit retro, and you don't get them in dozens. But what we do with them is so amazing that I had to show them anyway. And you can put whatever patterns you want there. This is another funny thing that we have at Remake. These towels, old kitchen towels. I was working in the shops when a man comes in and asks me for rags because he wants to clear out his garage. Because it was a slow period, we don't really do this. We're not allowed to sort of do this special services for people. I thought, well, why not? I'll call the warehouse and see, can you send me a big sack of rags? And I can sell it to this person rather than we throwing it away, why not? A sack comes to me full of towels, these kind of towels. We weren't able to sell them in the shops because they were all torn in the middle. They were broken some way or another. But all these things were still there at the end. All these lovely embroideries and prints. I couldn't give it to him. So I packed up a bunch of t-shirts and gave it, and I stored away the bag. It was there for years. I had it standing there in my studio until I suddenly thought, it's perfect for that little piece, for a little girl's dress. And there we went. So sometimes ideas don't come that quickly, but they come. This blanket was made by the women at our day center. At Remake, we sometimes go out as little satellite remakes to our to Stockholm City Mission's social ventures. For example, this day center called Klaragården. I used to be there on Tuesdays and do knitting with them. First, I was petrified going there with knitting needles, but I realized it wasn't that bad at all. Actually, they were quite shy, and I had some people I would call ghost knitters, because I would be there on Tuesday. One or two would sit there and knit with me. I'd come back the next Tuesday, and I had a bunch of squares. So they would knit when I wasn't there. They would look and they'd come and knit when I wasn't there. So this actual blanket, I got the challenge of putting them all together. And that's also, it's like when you have a group of people, you can put them together. Some you need to stretch, some you need to shrink, but you need to sort of adjust some a little bit, and you put the pieces together and you make a beautiful blanket. This particular blanket was given to our Princess Victoria and Daniel when they got married as a gift. Another thing that we do at Remake is what we call the Christ collection. We're thinking of changing that name, but at the moment it's called, within our little group, we call it the Christ collection. So we make this priest stola. I'm not sure what they call it in English, but it's like what the priests and the diakoner wear when they work. And we also want to make a Teike, which is the quilt that you put over the coffin at funerals, and messhakar, which is the big thing that priests wear as well. And the interesting thing about that is that I find that the priesthood is changing. They want to be very individual, and they want to express themselves even in, I mean, it's a different generation. It's very interesting to work with them. And we have, it's quite popular. Different world to me, but very interesting. I just had to show you this dress because I've done workshops in schools. This was femte klassare, 5th class, a girl. I don't think, it's not the best picture, but this girl is blind. She was blind and she made this dress just by feeling. And someone telling her, she hadn't been blind all the time, so she had an idea of colors. But we were talking, we just through conversation and through feeling things, she made this dress. I just found that absolutely amazing. Moved me. So, I brought along some things for you to look at. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to come up with them. So what's the funniest remake for me? What is the funniest remake? The funniest remake for me is when I can make something and you can see what it's been, but it's still a very good new product. Like for example, this upside down pants dress. And it brings joy. It must be, I love it when it's funny, when you sort of, it twists and it makes you laugh, and it's still very usable. That's the best remake for me. Thank you.